Okay, so you know how AI is actually quite rubbish and
It
it
can
gets a
be.
lot of things wrong?
Yeah.
Imagine if there's a way you could prove that it was getting things wrong and use that information to stop it getting things wrong.
That's what we need. I think that's what all AI needs, right?
Okay, my hot take on AI is I don't think that large language models have a future. This idea of building bigger and bigger models and throwing bigger and bigger data centers at it, I hope that dies a death. For example, there was an Air Canada chatbot that hit the news because it gave someone advice on their ticket and the fact they'd get a refund. And then when they applied for a refund, they were told, no, you can't have one. It went to court and the court ruled that actually your AI is legally binding.
Yeah.
Your AI is as true as your other terms and conditions. It is classed as an employee and the advice it gives has to be followed.
Let's go! Okay.
Hey everyone, we're here at DevRelCon. I've got Jim Bennett here from Galileo, and we're gonna get his spicy take on AI. But first, we want to hear a little bit about your company. Just explain it like I don't know anything. I'm not in tech. Just tell us a little bit about your company for somebody that's an outsider to tech.
Okay, so you know how AI is actually quite rubbish and
It
it
can
gets
be.
a lot of things wrong?
Yeah.
Imagine if there's a way you could prove that it was getting things wrong and use that information to stop it getting things wrong.
That's what we need. I think that's what all AI needs right now.
Yeah, that's basically what we do. We do it. The posh term is like observability and evaluations and monitoring. But essentially, you can't look at an AI and go, it's supposed to do X and it did Y in the same way you can do with any other application. My website should be running and it's not. AI doesn't quite work like that. It's my AI should have, based off this information, come up with something like this and then called this agent, but it kind of didn't because of this. And it's very kind of wishy-washy, non-deterministic.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
non-deterministic failure. It's not repeatable, and
Yeah, I can't give you a unit test where I say, if you do this prompt, it will do this, because it may not do that. So we kind of use another smarter AI to look at what your AI is doing and then decide, is it doing the right things? We look at kind of a number of different things. If it's using an agent, these things that go off and do stuff autonomously, is it using the right one? Is it making stuff up? If it's got some form of truth, if it's like go into your database to pull out information, is it using that information correctly, or is it extrapolating from that incorrectly? And then you kind of build a whole lot of other kind of custom guardrails. So you can say, well, this is supposed to help you with, I don't know, like a chatbot for a telecoms company. This is supposed to help you with billing, but actually it's not telling you about your bill, or the tone of it is not nice. It's being, maybe it's being a bit annoying with the way that it's interacting. Maybe it's being a little bit toxic, or just maybe it's just giving a really long-winded answer when you just want yes or no. And you can kind of build those kind of measurements in, and then you use that as either what we call guardrails, so essentially stop it before it does the wrong thing, or you monitor over time and say, look, across my whole application, in general, it's starting to get worse. Maybe we need to fix things.
right. Awesome. All right. So that gives us a good idea of what your company does. And obviously, it has a lot to do with helping the AI be more reliable for your customers and for their users. So what does AI reliability mean to you? Like, how do you define that? How do you express to your customers that you can deliver that? How is that your product reliability?
So the way we express it to our customers is everybody has an obligation to their customers to do the right thing. When we think about some of the stories that we see in the press around when AI is not being reliable, that has an impact on a business. Whether that's a reputational impact, whether it's a monetary impact, it has an impact. For example, there was an Air Canada chatbot that hit the news because it gave someone advice on their ticket and the fact they'd get a refund. And then when they applied for a refund, they were told, no, you can't have one. It went to court and the court ruled that actually your AI is legally binding.
Yeah.
Your AI is as true as your other terms and conditions. It is classed as an employee and the advice it gives has to be followed. And so when we think about the press that can come out of this, when we think about the Chicago Sun-Times publishing a summer book list of made up books, and that suddenly has a reputational risk for a newspaper. You can get fined if you give the wrong advice. And so we kind of pitch this to our customers as, you don't want to be on the wrong end of this. You don't want to be the next Chicago Sun-Times. You don't want to be the next, was it Badger Law Group, I think was the name that was
Citing fake cases.
citing a fake case. Or you don't want that risk. And especially in highly regulated industries like the banking sector, we work with a lot. You can get fined a lot of money for making these kind of mistakes. AI can leak PII. So personally identifiable information, and that can breach laws like GDPR in the UK, for example. And if you do that, you can be fined 4% of your turnover, not profits, turnover. So there's a lot of financial risk, a lot of compliance risk, a lot of reputational risk when you use AI, because it's not as reliable as code. I can write a unit test to say, don't leak a social security number. I can't do that for an AI product. And so AI reliability is giving you that confidence that what you are selling onto your customers, what you're providing to your customers, is going to be as compliant as you can make it. Now, we can't make 100% guarantees because AI is magic. We don't really, we can do measure to a certain point, but there's always going to be a certain fuzziness because of just the intrinsic nature of AI.
Of course, yeah.
But if you're getting like 5 million chat messages a day, the kind of volumes we deal with, and then you're looking at the trends across those, if you're getting like a 99% success rating, it's pretty good. If you're getting like a 30% success rating, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of monitor these things. You can kind of put the guardrails in and block, and you can go, oh, this product's really doing badly. Let's pull the plug before we end up with any serious problems.
Awesome. All right. Well, so that kind of leads into the next question. You were talking about how how you pitch this to customers, how you don't want them to wait until something happens, right? But in your experience with the customers that you've seen, are the majority of them proactive? Are they coming to you ahead of time like you're saying they should? Or did something happen and now they need your help? When do the majority of your customers come into the pipeline?
I mean, we do get a mix. We do get a mix. I don't know of any stories where someone's had that, they've hit the news and then they've panicked and come to us. Things AI is still very new in terms of like generative AI that people are building into applications as on now. So, we are working with customers who have been doing this for a number of years, but also as customers who've been told, thou shalt do AI, and they kind of don't really know what it looks like. And so some folks are introducing this right at the start. They're thinking about an application. They've got like data scientists working on prompts, doing model selection, choosing the frameworks and trying to decide how they're going to build that from the start. And they are building evaluations in right from day one. So they're doing this idea of data science experimentation. So they're working out what metrics they want to measure, trying out some prompts, running that through different experiments and using that up front before they even consider start constructing an application. And then you get people who are bringing this on board. They've already started to build an application. They've chosen their framework. They know their prompts, their models, but they want to make sure their application works when they start deploying it. We kind of think about people doing this like in their dev cycles, putting it in CI/CD pipelines, things like that. And then, you get the people who've built their app and it's out there and they're going, oh, this could go wrong. Help. And that becomes more of a, let's try and fit this in at almost like at the production level. It's in prod. Let's kind of down tools on new features. Let's build this in and let's start some monitoring going. And obviously, the earlier you do it, the better, because you can start baselining. You can make those more fundamental changes. But the best time to do it is before you even start. The second best time is now. It's very much like that. It's if you don't have this kind of protections in place now, you're just asking for trouble.
Right. Yeah. Any company, regardless of the size, if you're going to expose AI to your customers, to your end users publicly, I mean, you have to think about these risks. It's just a matter of time until it happens. It's kind of like cybersecurity, and it's only a matter of time until a company gets hacked,
Yeah, and we've seen kind of these surges of adding protections at different stages throughout the last 10, 20, 30 years as we've been building a lot more software. Observability was a big thing in general a few years ago as we all started to realize, oh, we need to know how long things are taking. We need to know, is our website up? And so the rise of like the sort of the Datadogs and Sentries, where you're starting to put this observability in to all your applications, that was, like 5, 10 years ago that kind of happened. Before that, we were thinking about CI/CD pipelines. We're thinking about adding unit testing in and testing our software. And this is kind of the next iteration of that, just focused on AI.
Awesome. All right. So with evaluations, obviously it's a lot more nuance than testing, with traditional software where the unit tests are a lot more, strict and specific. You don't have that non-deterministic challenge there, right? So what are some of the unique challenges that your customers have with evals? Like certain problems that are harder to test for. You mentioned PII. That seems like a pretty easy one to scan and make sure there's no socials in it. But on the other side, if it's like, don't make sure the AI doesn't say anything that could be harmful or offensive or whatever, right? Like that's like a lot bigger surface area you're trying to cover than don't match this pattern of a social, right? That's way easier to stop. So what are the more unique challenges in evals like that?
I mean, the unique challenges usually come down to something that's very specific to what a customer is trying to do. So, for example, if you work in like a telecoms company and you've got some kind of chatbot where you're asking questions about your billing, like, oh, I've just got this bill through. Can you explain why it's so high? Also, can you then direct me to your pricing plan so I can maybe change my pricing? It's these kind of multi-step questions.
Yeah.
And so you've got to look across like a whole agentic workflow where you've got one agent maybe that's going to go off and break down your bill. And that's going to call a tool that's going to actually pull out your bill. And then obviously you've got PI detection on that. Is my bill going to come back with any of my personal identifiable information? You've got identity checks in there as well, all that kind of stuff. But then when this information comes back to you, there's this other agent that needs to look at that information, then go off and decide what's the best plan for this customer based on their usage. Maybe they are paying over the odds for because they're exceeding their data caps. Maybe our unlimited plan is better. And so that's another agent with another set of tools, maybe a RAG system that's going to go off and pull back information. And so in that one call, that one prompt, you've got 4 or 5 agents, 10, 20 tools.
Oh,
There's so much in there. And it's not just about if the user asks this question, is the answer good? It's, did it call the right agents? Did it actually go to the agent that then called the tool to get the bill?
right.
And then when it got that, did it make the right decision that based off this billing information, we can go to this agent that's going to pull out the price plans and make a decision about price? And then later on in the chat, if they say, yes, I want this, it actually went off and changed their plan. It's all these flows through, all these decision-making processes that are in there that you have to track. And that's kind of one of the real bizarre challenges. It's, did the LLM make those right calls? And so you end up having this whole situation where a human could look at that trace and go, yes, that was exactly the right thing to do. But a machine can't always do that. So you have to use basically an AI to test an AI.
Yeah.
And that makes it kind of a really fun scenario where, and it actually turns out that AI is just as good as humans at determining whether something did the right job or not. And so you end up with this AI is having to look at these really complex agentic workflows and say, yes, this actually did a good job. And here's a breakdown of why.
Yeah.
And the challenges is not just about, did it do a good job? Yes, no. We actually have to explain why, because this non-deterministic nature of, how do you really define success in that flow? You then need to explain why we think this was successful so someone can view that and go, yeah, okay, yes, that was successful for these reasons. Because sometimes success can be, yes, it went through and it got the billing and it did this and it did this, did this. Sometimes the success could be, okay, can you give me a bit more information so I can make a much better decision?
Right.
Because they're kind of two very disparate paths, yet they're both successful. And so those kind of challenges as well is that you need a domain expert to help you define what success looks like and then build that into the measurements, the metrics that you're doing. It's not just like an uptime metric where you're saying, yes, the website was running for 99.999% of the day. It's, you need a domain expert to define success in terms of different pathways.
That makes sense. All right. So when you're working with the community, have you found any certain approaches to the way that you communicate this? Are there certain things that resonate better with them, or areas where they were struggling and you found out that, well, this is the biggest friction point in onboarding or basically just in integrating these type of evals into your platform? Going from, you need it and you have nowhere to start, no idea where to start. Where's the biggest friction point and how have you approached that?
Actually, our biggest friction point comes one step before what you're saying, which is people don't know they need these things.
Okay.
So when you
Awareness then.
awareness, we think about the developer community as a whole, and it's very easy to be in this bubble, this AI bubble of, yes, of course we're building AI. We're all AI experts.
Yeah.
We know LangGraph and Crew AI, and we know all these tools. We're brilliant. We know this stuff. And that is only representative of a very, very small part of the developer community. I've been at tech conferences, you're at the booth, people wander up and, what do you do? AI evaluations. What's that then? And then you dig into it, and there's a lot of folks who are, they've been working on legacy systems, and they've been told, thou shalt do AI. It's a thing. We all have to have AI. Our investors want it. The CEO wants it. And so you've got developers who spent the last 20 years building line of business applications. Suddenly they have to put AI in. And they don't even know about the concept of evaluation. They don't know enough about AI to realize that they need these level of protections in.
Yeah.
You mentioned, do you need observability for your backend? They go, yeah, of course I do. They know that it's well established. But the problem is a lot of folks don't realize they need this for AI at the moment because they're so new to it. We think about, ChatGPT has been around forever. 2.5 years since ChatGPT kind of burst onto the sphere. People are only just starting to develop with AI. And so it's just that awareness piece that, you know it can be wrong.
Oh,
Yeah, we know it can be wrong. Right. Well, how are you going to prove that? Oh, I didn't think of that. And so, it's just letting people know that, yes, you need to put this in and it can be done. Some people just assume, AI is going to get it wrong. We'll do it like ChatGPT, put a disclaimer. This is AI. You can't trust what it says. But that's not enough. They don't realize there is this whole tool set out there to help them. And so it's just awareness is the biggest thing. And then for us, it's just trying to get the message out at every possible place. If you're using AI, whatever you do, test it, please, because it's going to be problematic.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody is aware that hallucinations are a problem, but they're maybe not as aware that there is a solution, that even though it's always random and non-deterministic, that there is a way to structure testing and still have some type of control over that. So
yes.
Have you found any misconceptions that people that think they can use it or think that it can't do something and realize what you can test for that, or any just education, places that you've had to fix misconceptions in the community?
I think the biggest misconception is we have like a whole lot of standard metrics out the box. And so a lot of people think there's just a set of standard ways you measure things. Again, it kind of, when we think about traditional observability, you measure things like uptime, can measure like number of 500s and things like that. People think there's like standard metrics for AI observability. And I mean, we offer some standard ones out the box, a measure of, is it being toxic? Is it giving you a complete answer? And these are kind of a great way to get started. But what a lot of folks don't realize is you have to customize these. You cannot just use an out-the-box metric and expect that to be successful in production, because everybody's use case is different.
Right.
What your definition of PII is, you mentioned like social security numbers, that might be different from what my definition of PII might be. I might not be American. So I might have like a national insurance number. I'm British, right? We have national insurance numbers, a bit like the social security, less secure, doesn't need to be as private, but there's so many different types of PII. And so that you can't have like a one PII to rule them all.
Yeah.
You need to kind of customize those. It's kind of something that we offer at Galileo is CLHF, continuous learning by human feedback. And you can take an out of the box metric and say, you're wrong, and this is why. And that will retune that metric to make it more effective going forward for your data. And then even take that further, we offer custom models that you can tune on your data for your use case. So we'll work with you to kind of tune that to make it work well with what you are doing. Because every situation is different, every case is different, every application you're building is different, every workflow is different. And out the box is a great way to get started, but you have to have that kind of customization for your use case to be 100% effective. And just that misconception that I can just slap on AI metrics, just slap on observability, forget about it. That's just not correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be completely different from one company to the next because the way that they're using AI is different. Some of them are using it to generate a response. Some of them are using it for summaries or to label data or extract data points. So yeah, it's going to be completely different approach. That makes sense.
And different industries as well. The AI governance rules you have for financial services industry is going to be very different. You're going to have compliance teams that say, we are legally obliged to do this, this, and this. You have to do this. And that's very different from like a telecoms company or an entertainment company.
Oh, yeah.
So ideally, you want to embed those laws in AI governance through metrics. You can have teams saying, every single AI evaluation has got to use this custom metric that we have handcrafted to comply with the relevant compliance laws for our business. And that is set at a governance level, completely detached from every single developer team that's building this. As long as they feed into one platform, they get that compliance set for everybody.
Right.
And yeah, so that can be, even the developers can be detached from these decisions around what metrics that you want to measure and set at a AI governance, chief AI officer kind of level. And that, again, very different for a financial services company, for a telecoms company, for an entertainment company, for a healthcare company, for an insurance company, for a tech company. And just having those different rules in different places makes an interesting challenge that obviously we have professional services folks that help with that. But yes, every company is different. Every company has different rules they have to follow.
All right. So it sounds like you have a good solution for this, that your product can help solve this issue of, the non-deterministic part of AI and all the risk that comes with that. But I'm sure, like any product, there's room for improvement. If you had a magic wand and unlimited resources, what would you add to Galileo?
Oh, where to start? Magic wand, unlimited resources. I definitely think we have proactive protections, and I think there's a lot further we can go doing preemptive protections as well. We've got this thing where you can send like a prompt through and we actually put a guardrail on. And if the decision from the LM comes back and says no, you can block that. But I always wonder about how early on in the cycle could we do this?
Don't let it get as far before you catch it.
Yeah, can I evaluate a prompt as I'm typing it? We think about the autocomplete. As developers, we have autocomplete. We start typing things, we get suggestions on how to type it, and we get red squigglies as we're typing. Could you have that preemptive evaluation earlier on in the cycle? That's kind of an interesting idea for just to make the user experience of the end user, not even our customers, but our customer's customer, make their experience much nicer. It'd be nice to think about a lot more different modalities as well. As we think, a lot of folks are working with text or voice. And, no problem, text, we can do that. But as we start thinking about images and code, how can we have those? Can we hook those evaluations into your cursors, your GitHub Copilots, to
video generation?
Yeah, when we think about the future of AI, of all the things that come in, I mean, the talk at the end of yesterday, where a page from Google DeepMind showed
the raccoon video.
Yeah, the raccoon video. Again, how do you start adding evaluations to that?
Right.
She was showing some demos that could potentially be like deep fakes.
She mentioned, sorry to interrupt you. She was talking about how there's this concept that maybe they're going to start doing videos that are customized per person, generated just for you, like an ad that knows everything about you. And this one's, you're the only person that's going to see that ad, right? If you tried to do that on scale, like, you couldn't have a person check all those. No. You're going to need an AI that can check video and look for, it's just like a unit test like you would in code, but look for offensive content, for something that shouldn't be in there, for hallucinations. So yeah, it's going to cover all modalities. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like the AI chatbots. There was one they hit the news a few months ago. It was one of these AI chatbots that unfortunately convinced someone to commit suicide.
Yeah, I think
that was, and it's living in a world where there are tools that can do that. Obviously, that's very much an extreme.
Yeah.
But we have to be stewards of the materials that we create. We have a responsibility that when we create content in whatever form, it is not going to harm people. And with AI generated content, what if the computer makes the decision to create something that has the potential to cause harm? Yes, we can joke about the Terminator, Skynet just coming online and what have you, but in the real world right now, we could have automatic video creation that creates harmful content that has a negative impact on people's lives. And so you need to have those checks in that video content as early as possible. That's just even basic toxicity. Is this just a good advert? If you've got a customized advert, I don't know if you read the Careless People book, the expose of Facebook. They were showing in that Facebook has had an algorithm they were selling to people that if a young girl posted a selfie and then deleted it not long after, immediately surfaced beauty ads to her. The idea being she feels insecure and takes the picture down. Let's try and sell things to her. That's taken advantage of someone's vulnerability. And so if we start auto-generating ads, we need to not take advantage of people's vulnerabilities. We need to make sure that what we're creating is the decent thing to do for humans. And so, Yeah, I'm a big fan of regulation. We should have a lot more AI regulation. If we can enforce that regulation through these guardrails, we can add these protections mandated by law early on, so that if we do start producing this auto-generated video content, it is not toxic. And again, that comes down to making sure we can do evaluations in video, which is, it's hard because text is easy.
Yeah.
But when you've got images on screen and then text on screen and voiceovers and all of it, there's so many different components into it. So I know we've got research folks looking at this, but yeah, it's definitely, this whole multimodal platform is a very interesting future for evaluations.
All right. Well, we got time for one more. We've also got some hot sauce here, and I'd like to hear your hot take on AI. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be only about observability, but you can grab a bottle of hot sauce there, and we'll trade you for hearing your hot take.
Okay, my hot take on AI is I don't think that large language models have a future. This idea of building bigger and bigger models and throwing bigger and bigger data centers at it, I hope that dies a death. I like small models, small specialized models. I don't see the point in burning down the planet so that I can ask a question about, I don't know, I can ask for a recipe and then burn down a planet because the AI is so big because it's been trained on Japanese culture, French history, oceanography. You know, I don't need that. I just need a recipe LLM. And so I think the future is small language models that just do one job and do it very, very well, that I can run on my laptop. I'm looking forward to kind of the death of the data center in some ways. Yeah, I've got a reasonably powerful Mac. There are a lot of small language models that can run locally. But what if I could just pull just the models that I need? I don't need a model that can speak any language other than English, because I am one of those terrible people who only speaks one language. But why would I burn CPU cycles going through parameters that I don't need? So I think the future is smaller, customized language models, not these big ones. You know, Gemini, it's very powerful. I think things like Gemini and ChatGPT, they need to die.
Yeah. Well, I hope that hot take is right, because I love running models locally. I use Ollama a lot, and I'll build like this little local projects and integrate with it. And honestly, it's not just fun. It's like amazing. It blows my mind that you can have a model running locally on your device, kill your internet, and still be able to, like, there's even image ones. Like, you can run Llama 3.2 Vision locally, analyze an image without the internet, and it can still extract text and tell you about it, right?
Yeah.
Blows my mind that it's possible on just a standard hardware laptop, but it's not good enough to replace your normal workflow of, using Claude Code or Anthropic, whatever you're used to using, like for writing code. The local models aren't there yet. So like, it's fun to play around with locally, but it's not a replacement yet. And I would love for it to get to that point where we have small, efficient models where you can run them on your device, maybe even on your phone, and still get just as good of results. So where it's not a compromise because the model has been optimized to run and it can do what you need it to do, you know?
Yeah, it can just do code. It can't do all the other things, and that makes it small enough to run on your device. Yeah, and as you say, yet. But every time the models are getting better and better and better, every month there's another model that's coming out that is as good, and new hardware is coming out that's more powerful, that's optimized for running these models.
Yeah.
So, give it a year, 2 years, and I think we will have the same kind of quality you're getting with like your Claude 4 and Cursor. You would have that in a local model just running it on your laptop, and you can just be completely detached from the internet and just vibe code away.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
For anyone interested, where can they find you online?
So I'm online. So I'm Jim Bennett all over the internet. So if you go to Linktree, so linktree.e/Jim Bennett, that's got all my links on there. Galileo, we're at galileo.ai. Come check us out. We've got a free tier, so you can have a play, get going with it, and then hit me up with any questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.